2, 1. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to see you.
Good to see you.
Good to meet you finally in person.
Yes, I'm so excited about it.
I'm sorry, my voice is so raspy right now.
Me too. Had a soccer game last night and it was 43 degrees, but it said it felt like 35.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
That's
thanks.
okay.
I hated it.
I like the cold when I have a nice jacket. I'm not built for that.
I loved the game, didn't like the weather.
So because I want to get into what we were talking about a little earlier with like being able to help with like political campaigns and stuff like that. I think it's very interesting. Mm-hmm. But so how long have you been with the marketing agency you're with right now?
Since January of this year. So January 2020.
And how have you liked it?
2022. I've loved it.
Yeah.
Raiden has this charismatic energy.
And shout out to Raiden.
Yeah,
thanks again,
Raiden.
bud.
Thank you, Raiden.
Yeah, second podcast guest he's gotten me, so thank you.
He's my boy. So yeah, him and I met and we clicked, and you kind of can just click with those people who want to do better in life.
Yeah.
Whether it's in your job, in your personal life, whatever you're doing, he wanted it to be the best he could. And I was like, hell yeah, like that's my type of dude. So we started working with each other. We were working through a campaign. We met Jay Block. We started working with him a little bit. He came on to your podcast as well.
Yeah.
Loved that podcast. He's a really cool guy.
He is.
I love
nice
Jay
guy.
Block. Yeah, really cool guy. So yeah, with the whole campaign, I mean, it takes a lot of energy to spend with a candidate and to get their message coming across accurately. And we knew that we had to spend more time with these candidates if we
Bring
want
the mic a little bit closer, just a little bit closer. Yeah, perfect. There you go. Yeah.
this close.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. So you're spending time with them. You're spending a lot of energy with them, investing in them.
Yes, we were. So we spent a lot of time doing the politics up into the primaries. And then after the primaries, we were working with Jay Block. He ended up not making it through. And so that's when we took a step back and we're like, okay, we've been involved with the politics. It takes a lot of energy to be involved with the politics, and they deserve somebody who's going to be there with them 100% all the time. We weren't able to do that at that point in time. We weren't able to just dedicate all of our energy towards one candidate, and that's what they deserve. And so that's when we started pulling back a little bit and saying, here's how we can help. And whether it's spreading the word, we were on MailChimp helping them curate their messages, trying to get their message across accurately. Because I feel like in this world, people have this perception of people, and it's either you're Republican, you're Democrat, and I don't like you because you're this, I don't like you because you're this. And that's where I got interested within the politics, because where's this bipartisanship?
Yeah.
Where's the middle?
when New Mexico was almost non-existent. And speaking with him was a good time, and all the credit in the world to him for wanting to get out there and do something like that, because that just again, obviously I wasn't alive back then, but I would imagine 50 years ago, being a politician was a little more glamorous. It was a little more like, I'm going to go out and actually maybe I'll do something different. Maybe I'll help out a little bit. But then you also had your Nixons and your Clintons along the path. So, every group of people has their shitty individuals. But, I mean, now, like, why would you, in the age of the internet, that changed everything.
Absolutely.
Like, why in the world would you want to go out and apply for a job that, in comparison to the work you do, the money's not that good. Mm-hmm. And until you start turning into like Pelosi and you have a net worth of like $200 million. And well, I mean,
that's a different topic.
You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy that her and her husband are better at trading and predicting stocks than Warren Buffett.
Absolutely.
How does that work, right? Mm-hmm. But anyway, the money isn't that good compared to what you're doing. And your family's life, your life gets absolutely ripped apart and butchered for the public to see. So how much like PR management did you guys have to deal with on a daily basis of like, oh, they're attacking him for this and they're going after that and they hate him because of blah, 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 blah. And they're like, they like him for this, but that's not a real reason to like him.
I know. We were putting out wildfires everywhere. I mean, it was the season of wildfires. I mean, I had to block Mark Ronchetti on my Instagram.
The podcast is brought to you today by OrganicPriceBooks.com. I love comic books. That is absolutely no secret to any of my friends, family, or listeners. And right here is just some of the comics that I have either bought or gotten sent to me by the fine folks over at Organic Price Books. As you can tell, they have a wide selection from DC, Independent, Marvel, and they have become the #1 spot for everything omnibus, oversized hardcover, or just general collected editions. No matter what you want, they've got it. Go to their website and at checkout, use our promo code, just my name, Noah, Noah, to get additional discounts on top of what they already offer, which ranges anywhere from 30 to 50% off. OrganicPriceBooks.com, use my promo code Noah, Noah, and start reading comics today.
He was, so I had people coming after me, and I'm like, what? What am I doing? Like,
the weatherman came after you?
He came after me.
Are you allowed to talk about that?
I mean,
he messaged you, so he
didn't message me.
Oh, okay.
I think it was his team,
okay.
And then he started following me because you can find out who's working with who,
right? And
so that was interesting. So I just nipped it in the bud and just blocked Mark Ronchetti. I don't have anything against Mark Ronchetti, but it is interesting.
Internet does, I'll tell you that much.
Maybe I'll backtrack a little bit, but. It's crazy. I mean, we're working with one of the best fundraisers in the state, and he said something to me, and he said, you're going to go through like 30 curtains, and we're going to unveil. You're just going to find out more and more and more as you get deeper into this.
Yeah.
And we went into the pre-primary convention with a CD1 candidate, and she didn't get enough delegate votes. And so
people don't understand what's a CD1 candidate.
So the first congressional district.
Okay.
So she was running for Congress.
Yeah.
And she was running against Michelle Garcia Holmes right now, who's up against Melanie Stansberry.
Yeah.
And she didn't get enough delegate votes. So you need a certain X amount of signatures to proceed on to be on the ballot if you don't get the delegate vote. That's what Mark Ronchetti did. So he didn't get enough delegate votes. Jay Block got the most delegate votes. He won the pre-primary convention, and
right.
Mark Ronchetti had to get 7,000 signatures to be on the ballot. And so he really, I thought, ran his campaign based upon the people, saying, the people want me, screw the party.
Yeah.
And
yeah. No, because, and again, and I don't want to come out here and say that I think that Block was a independent. He's very much Republican. God bless him for good and bad. He's very much Republican, but what I liked about him was, as far as, as forthright as politicians can be, because at a baseline, I've gotten to a point, and it's very ignorant, and it comes from a place of ignorance, I understand that, from sticking to it. Mm-hmm. At a baseline, if you're a politician, I already kind of I second guess a lot of things that you say. You know what I mean? Because I don't understand the game, but I get why you're doing it. Yeah. You know what I mean? I totally get it. But, he seemed to really, stand behind what he thought,
He speaks with conviction.
Yeah.
He's not a bullshitter.
Yeah.
And so I felt the same way prior to getting into the politics.
Yeah.
I felt like, how can you trust these people? Just they're saying whatever they can for their benefit. But once I started to get to know these candidates and how, they have to want it. You have to work with the right candidate who wants it.
Right. But I think that's why he didn't get the top spot on the Republican Party, is because he knew what he wanted and he stuck by it. He didn't wave to the party whatever they wanted. Behind the scenes, whatever they wanted, whatever agenda they wanted to push, they felt he wasn't able to play ball like that to the point where he's able to kind of not forsake what he believes in, but kind of waver on it a little bit. He didn't come off as that guy.
And I wish he did. I mean, but he is he
can play ball, but he believes what he says.
Exactly.
And that's not today's politics.
No, but he has had some major wins within bipartisanship within his district. So he is a county commissioner, and he turned that district red for the first time.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, so that is interesting. And so he says he's a Republican. He really is a moderate, I would say. But he has to, there's some beliefs that put him into that realm of being a Republican. Especially
today, in a post-Trump political world, I think there's the right, and then there's the radical, red hat Trumpers. And that's what a lot of people want Republicans to be today. In the same way that there's the Democrats, there's liberals And then there's the left.
Yes.
Like the far, far left that has all their crazy ideologies and, you know what, live your life, whatever. But I look at Ronchetti and I look at Grisham and I feel like it's a micro version of Trump versus Clinton. You know what I mean? It's this, right down to the genders too, which is scary. Like you've got the traditional politician, corrupt as can be, been there, knows the system, whatever. And then you have a television personality that's going off a name recognition in their community.
100%. And so people can relate to that. I feel like the general consensus, if they were to gravitate towards something, they could be like, oh, he's like us. Or he's a working man like, you know, like ourselves.
Yeah.
I feel like he has that in his benefit.
I don't know. I'm so scared that, like, with the way New Mexicans vote, I mean, they reelected Keller, and like him or hate him, I don't know. Because I remember when he was running for office, his one thing was APD reform.
Yeah.
What's the one thing he didn't do? APD reform. They're still just as underfunded. They're still just as understaffed. They're still just as shitty. Sorry to all my APD friends. You talk shit about yourselves. And this is not like information that I have because I'm not. Like, these are my friends in APD that tell us, like, we hate it here.
Yeah, it's not perception. You're hearing it from their mouths.
Yeah, exactly.
The podcast is brought to you by one of our brand new sponsors, Bucked Up Nutrition. Look, it's no secret that I love going to the gym. Fitness and nutrition is a huge part of my life. And Bucked Up has partnered up with the podcast, help support it. I cannot be more excited. This is one of my favorite workouts. It's a high stimulant nootropic. I'm hitting PRs today, so I cannot wait to use this. The Banff Black by Bucked Up Nutrition. They've also got, as you can see, some awesome clothing here. With my t-shirts, I personally prefer the short logo here. Use our promo code at checkout, OKPod20, to get 20% off of awesome clothes, supplements, all their products here to include their stacks. That's OKPod20, another awesome stringer here for an additional discount at checkout.
So it's the one thing he promised that he didn't do. And then now we have the weatherman. And with the way New Mexicans vote, I feel like we're gonna get 4 years of Grisham again.
I have a feeling you're right. I think it's interesting that the Albuquerque Journal endorsed Ronchetti and said that he was going to be the next governor, essentially.
I don't like that.
Yeah.
I would love to see that. Is that a recent publication?
Albuquerque Journal, yeah. We should look it up right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna look that up really quick. So do you know when they endorsed him?
I believe that it was last week.
See, and normally, well, sometimes anyway, I'll have a buddy of mine sit behind here, and he pulls things up on the computer. But he's in training right now. Endorses Ronchetti. See, because I don't.
5 days ago.
Yep, I just found it too. Oh goodness.
I mean, it's interesting. We did a commercial for J Block, and we were walking through Coronado Park, and it was devastating, man. It's hard. It's hard walking through there and seeing people who have been living on the streets their entire lives and don't know anything different besides living on the street, or the ones that got into a bad situation and it's hard to get out of it. And so that's where it's tough creating a plan for these people, because some people don't want help, but what about the people who do want help? How do we offer support to them? Because we can only offer so much. I think it's psychiatric care and support and having a plan. They need an ID. They need an address. How do they get a job?
Yeah. Yeah, and so, but you bring up a point, well, two actually, that people don't really either think about or really recognize or want to think about. It's that, there are homeless people out there that want to be homeless. Mm-hmm. They want to be.
Exactly.
And whether it's an actual, as informed as it can be, choice that they make, or it's all they know, and it's now formed. It's like a person that hoards everything, and they've got the boxes of newspapers and the boxes of trash and also around their house. It's a mental illness. It forms into one. So they want to be homeless for whatever reason. And the second reason, and this really didn't get like brought to me, or like I really understood it until there's an episode of Joe Rogan. He had the mayor of Austin on. And the number one reason in Austin, apparently, like, their demographic, I was kind of comparing, like, their statistics to ours. They're very alike. Mm-hmm. The number one reason in Austin why there are homeless people is not because of drugs, not because of crime, not because of like race problems or like whatever that you normally hear. It's they were already living paycheck to paycheck, and it normally comes from and it's why most of the homeless population in the nation is male. Is there's a 2-person household where they have like 1 or 2 kids, they're married, and then they keep getting bills stack up. And more often than not, what ends up happening is they have like a medical bill. And then it's like they have to pay that off, or they pay the car off, or they pay off the medical bill, they lose the car.
Yep.
And they lose a job because they can't get to their job. They get a divorce, and they get a divorce. The wife typically has family to lean upon or friends to lean upon, takes the kids, husband has nothing, homeless. It's that easy.
And how much support do you have? Who's in your corner telling you you can get through this? This is temporary.
Well, it's not even just that. It's just monetary.
Yeah.
Like the money problem too.
Absolutely. You feel defeated.
And that's pre-COVID.
I mean, mental illness, I mean, if you're having financial problems, that's huge on your mental health.
Yeah.
Survival mode. You're in survival mode. And so people, whether you're on the streets, whether you're in a mansion, if you're having financial problems, it's going to trickle out in your life in some way.
Yeah.
Within your attitude, within the way that you deal with things, until you get things straight. You know what I mean? And
that's like, I've always thought that, not always, this is an idea that I kind of thought about a couple of years ago during the pandemic, but like, I think it would never work because A, no one would go back into politics, and B, the people, it's like term limits, right? Who's going to vote in term limits? The people who need them the most, they vote themselves out of a job, right? So that's why we're never going to get them. Mm-hmm. But like, if you're a governor, if you're a senator, whatever it is, your pay should be based off of your GDP of your area that you govern, or the GDP of the area that you represent.
That's interesting.
Because, and it's a problem of the West. And I know I certainly fall into it as well. Not that I make a ton of money, because I certainly don't. Sponsors help. But, yes, The Rock, please. Give me some of that Black Adam money. But no, it's a problem of the West where you see problems like homelessness. You see problems like crime. Whatever it is that's like plaguing your community, drugs. Your goal, either actively or subconsciously, is I'm going to make enough money to where that no longer affects me.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of Americans. Mm-hmm. And so with politicians, they get into their job, they're making $250,000 a year, whatever it is. They finally get out of that neighborhood. They finally do whatever they're doing. And then it's like, hey, don't vote for this. Here's an extra $100,000. Hey, do vote for this. Here's an extra $80,000. And then it kind of just starts trickling in like that. And they stay away from their constituents. And they no longer know what those problems are.
Exactly.
Imagine if a politician only made like $40 an hour.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
He'd be hustling, right?
Right?
Because he would be working for the people.
Exactly. Because if that's the median of your area, which I think is the average salary for Americans right now is like $51,000.
Mm-hmm, that sounds about right.
So that shakes out to about 28, right? $30 an hour ish. Mm-hmm. So imagine if that's all a politician was making.
Yeah.
For their area. It's like, well, you better figure it out, dude. You better start advocating for the right things.
Definitely. And that is a great perception. Like we talked about the Nancy Pelosi and how much these people are making and how out of touch they could be with Americans.
How out of touch they are.
They are. How out of touch they are.
Did you see when she got asked about her husband's inside trading? Did you see that?
I actually didn't. I missed that one.
Oh my God. So it was right after they're having they have still a huge computer chip shortage. Mm-hmm. And they were going to, they ended up giving a big government grant to NVIDIA that creates all the chips. And so right before they did it, like 2 weeks before, her husband bought like $8 million worth of NVIDIA stock. Mm-hmm. They do the grant, their stock sky rises, and they ask her about it. They were like, do you give any information to your husband about trading options or about bills you guys are going to put through? She goes, oh no, I have no idea what you're talking about, and moves away the mic and like hodls away. Yeah.
Yeah, so that makes us trust her even more. We're like, yes, I believe in her.
Yeah, like physically like palms the mic down and hobbles away.
No, yeah, that's not for the people. I mean, I'll give you an example. Ellis McMath running for House Representative in District 15. And so he is a retired Air Force controller. He did APD. He was a reserve officer. He does concealed carry classes. And he is an amazing, amazing man. And I feel like he's not out of touch. He walks his neighborhood, I mean, not his neighborhood, his district, and puts out flyers, and he's talking to people and everything like that. But you're right. I mean, it depends on the district.
Yeah.
Because is it a nice district? I mean, yeah, it's a nice district. It's just west of the Rio Grande. So it has that neighborhood, in that, like, sorry, I'm thinking geographically right now. That's south, east, west. I don't know. Over by Cottonwood.
Oh, okay. The west side.
Yeah, the west side.
Yeah, the upper west side. Yeah.
Yeah, not so much upper west side, but like right by the Rio Grande. You
Yeah.
know, so you have like nicer houses and things like that.
Yeah, it's upper. Yeah.
Yeah, and then so you have someone walking neighborhoods like that, or you have Michaela Chavez, and she's running for county commissioner in District 1, and she is in an area where it's central, it's downtown, it's Keller territory, and she is witnessing all of these things that are going on, and it's just interesting to see somebody so passionate about what's going on in their area.
Yeah.
But it depends on the area.
Yeah.
Because I'll tell you, I lived in Florida for a while, in Sarasota. My grandparents lived on Longboat Key, and it's quite easy to be liberal over there when there's one murder per 5 years. You're like, oh yeah, everything's great, like love it over here, like there's no issue.
Right.
So when you're immersed in a place that has a lot of issues, what are we going to do about it?
Right.
And that's one thing I really liked about Jay Block is like he was like, what the hell are we going to do about this shit? And he was willing to make that bipartisanship. I really am not interested in voting for anybody who doesn't mention working with the other side. How are we going to make anything happen without working with the other side?
Yeah, and that was one thing I pushed back on him for, because he let it slip a little bit. He was going to get a little trigger happy with the executive orders. And I was like, well, maybe we need to work with the other side. Maybe we need to figure this out. I was like, no, we're just going to do it. And I was like, okay. I've only got an hour. I'm not going to argue that much, but okay. You've spoken for yourself.
Yes.
Because I agree. Like, people think that 4 years is such a long time, and it's really not. Mm-hmm. It's really not. And again, I've never been in politics. I have absolutely no desire. I used to, but then I grew up and I was like, nope, no, thank you. And 4 years is not that long of a time, especially when I feel like you spend the first year figuring out what to do.
Exactly.
I mean, you think about any job that you go to when you first start, it takes you 6 months to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. And you're there 5 days a week, 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day. Mm-hmm. And to be doing a job like, I feel like once you hit governor and higher, it's a 24-hour day job. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't stop. There is no days off. It's just very frequently just going. And it still takes them like a year to figure out what's going on. Mm-hmm. Which is, I mean, they give people like, again, let's assume that experience means something. Biden has been in politics for like 30-something years, right? And they still give people like him the first 100 days to figure out what's going on as a president, right? Mm-hmm. And so to ask that of anyone at a state level to get it together in the first like month is insane.
It is insane. And it's different. I mean, we're talking about if we were comparing people such as Mark Ronchetti.
Please continue. I'm just going to check like the cameras and stuff.
Very good. If we're talking about like Mark Ronchetti, who has never been in a position such as that. And then we're talking about Jay Block, who has had experience and knows how to do things and knows how things work. Who would you trust? I mean, and that's where it gets interesting, because it's like, do we want somebody who's already been in the game and is playing the game? Are they playing the game? Like, there's so many questions and so many variables to each candidate that it's hard to decipher. But all I know is that working with these people, they're people. They're people.
Right.
So like we hold politicians to this very, very high standard. They have to be role models. They have to be perfect.
They should be. In all fairness,
they should be.
They should be.
I mean, they're representatives of the people. And I get that. And so we look at these high positions, but then we have to remember these are people.
Yeah.
That have, that go home every day, still have to, maybe they cook for themselves, maybe they don't. I have no idea. But, I'm not sure how.
Nancy Pelosi's made a dinner for herself in the last 50 years.
Probably not. So we're all people at the end of the day. We all fuck up. And so I think that we have to keep those things in mind and not not put people on pedestals.
Well, because like it's funny to me when, because you always hear like, if I got into politics, I would never be corrupt. I would never let the power get to my head or the money. It's like, dude, like, just by that answer, I know you've never seen $100,000 in front of you.
Exactly.
I haven't, because like if I did, I don't know how strict my morals are.
Right.
Once I see $100,000, $1 million in front of me, because like as far as money goes, like just money, that's not a lot of money. But compared to what I make every year, that's life changing.
Totally.
Right. And to get that kind of incentive in your life. I can't accurately say if I wouldn't maybe, I don't know.
And it couldn't be that. It could be your best friend that you've known forever. And you subconsciously have a special interest towards them and what they're doing. And so you're making decisions for your homies.
Yeah.
So it could.
Because why wouldn't you, right?
Yeah. So it's just everyone's going to have a biased opinion in an odd way.
Yeah.
And that's where the politicians really need to. It's like that's where the power struggle is. Are you human or are you on a pedestal?
Yeah.
And so it's that fine line of being that.
What's crazy to me that like I get that we have like vice presidents and presidents and we have governors and vice governors. I get that. But it's crazy to me to ask, because what does the vice president do really? Like, what has Kamala Harris done over the last 2 years? Right?
Just make some really embarrassing speeches.
Yeah, like they hid her away and then they brought her out for the border. Everyone hates her laugh still, so they hid her away again. They bring her out. What's the first thing she does? She says we're in alliance with North Korea, so they hide her away again. She's horrible, right? So what does the vice president really do? And at this point with Biden, we're all asking, well, what does the president really do?
Well, she's there if he dies.
Well, right. That's so scary.
I know.
Because there's just, I don't like the idea. And because I feel bad for Biden. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Like, I do feel bad for him.
He's older.
He's old. He's like everyone's grandfather.
Exactly.
That's getting dementia, and he has handlers.
Totally. I would be so pissed if people were talking about my grandpa like that. I'd be like, he's old. Give him a break.
No,
you know
exactly,
what I mean?
Right? And they want to keep the family money. They knew what was going on with Hunter in Ukraine, and they wanted to try to keep that hush hush, and they have kind of, but because no one's prosecuted yet, but everyone knows about it. But like, man, it's his wife, it's his party, and then it's Kamala Harris saying, like, oh, this is a great idea. This is a great idea. Just put him up there. Get him up there. Get him up. And we're watching him deteriorate.
I know.
In real time. We are watching him deteriorate. And because people are like, oh, we shouldn't give Trump the nuclear codes. We shouldn't give him the ability to command the army or the military because he's going to make a wrong decision. He's going to say the wrong thing. It's like, bro, Biden's mental health is an actual national security concern.
He is a team, though. You know what I mean? But yeah.
Yes,
you're right.
but I mean, like, how many things has he said off color that his team is probably like, what the fuck are we talking about? What are you saying?
100%.
Or like, he'll read, and again, it's not all sudden. It's not everything all at once. It's little trickling incidents. It's these little things that kind of bleed through, and it's like, oh shit, the armor's cracking, because he'll read the teleprompter. And then he'll spell out like DOT, right? Like not .com, he'll say DOTCOM. It's like, dude, what's going on? Or he'll say his sentence and then in parentheses on the teleprompter say read it again for emphasis, and he'll say read it again for emphasis. It's very scary.
Yeah.
And so again, I feel bad for the guy, but all it takes is a sturdy flight of stairs for that dude to go out, right? So if he goes out, then we get Kamala Harris. If she goes out, then we get Nancy Pelosi. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here?
I know. We need some fresh blood in here, for real. And it's funny because, my buddy Andrew Arnold, he's a director and he's an amazing just visual artist in general. He just made this really funny satire video on Biden about talking with ghosts. Just because you see him going off camera and
he walks away
shaking hands, and so it's on YouTube. It's so funny, Biden talking with ghosts, and it's just like a 2-minute video, and it's just him walking through the lawn and going the wrong way, but it's like, no, he was talking to President Taft, the ghost of President Taft. And so I was just dying over this. I was like, oh my gosh. So it's funny to make light of it, but at the same time, you're right. Let's pay attention to his age. Let's pay attention to the times. They put him up because they wanted somebody to win, right? They wanted someone to win against Trump. Who else was going to win? Who else had really credibility at the time?
Honestly, if they would have put, because I, up until the pandemic, I was very much a Republican. That's the way I was raised. That's what I knew. Like, that's all I really kind of messed with. But then I kind of, I think it happened for a lot of people when the pandemic happens. Like, oh, not everything's going to be okay. Because that was, again, a privilege of the West, was like, no matter what happens, it's over there. It's not going to affect us. Even if our politicians are stupid, we're going to be okay. It's going to be fine. We're all good. And then it wasn't. And I was like, oh, the system's really broken. Like, all of this is really, 95% of our pharmaceutical antibacterials come from China. Like, we're so fucked. Like, what's going on? And so after I was like, okay, this is all a joke. This is all bullshit. They're all like maniacs. They're maniacs, all of them. But I saw the lineup for the Democratic Party. I mean, Jesus Christ. Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard, Pete Buttigieg, who was the other one? What was the black guy's name?
The doctor?
Doctor, he's in the cabinet now.
The neurologist?
Yeah. So they had a literal brain surgeon on the roster, right?
Yeah.
And I was leaning more towards Andrew Yang or Tulsi Gabbard, personally.
Yeah, they are.
And I was like, okay, I could actually vote blue. Like, I don't love all their ideas, but this one seems a little less radical. These guys seem like liberals, not leftists. Like, I'm not cool with the whole hormone blockers for kids, pumping kids with hormones, 56 genders. I'm not cool with that, but like, yeah, maybe we should figure out a universal healthcare system. A UBI doesn't sound that bad. Let's see what this can turn out to be. And because I thought was hilarious was when they were doing the primaries, Andrew Yang was preaching about there's going to come a time in 30 years where we need a UBI. And for anyone who doesn't know what that is, it's a universal basic income. Where basically we get, he was going to give us $1,000 a month if you're over 18. And he had a bunch of good ideas about how it replaces like Social Security and how it replaces the like any kind of disability benefits people get and all this, that, and the other. Because it's like, we're going to lose trucking. We're going to lose waiting staff at restaurants. We're going to lose cash registers.
Exactly.
It wasn't just cash register. People who work the register. It's retail. We're going to lose retail because the top 2 jobs for women over, I think it was 28 in the United States right now, is retail and the service industry. It's like, we're going to lose all of those. The number 1 job for men over 35 is truck driving. We're going to lose all of that. And we're already seeing that because Amazon has automated trucks.
Absolutely.
Tesla is now making automated trucks.
We're just going to have drones. Boop.
No, for real.
Yeah.
Like, we're having all that. And then he was like, we're going to come a time and the economy is going to crash. So we're going to need that. And then less than a year later, COVID happened.
Yep.
And what did Trump do? He brought in Andrew Yang to figure out how to do a UBI. They botched it completely. They fucked it all up. But, he was way ahead of the curve. And then Tulsi Gabbard, she was really cool. I mean, she is really cool. And it's sad now to see like her specifically because she has no interest in doing politics anymore. And it's like, well, why would she? Like, after getting fucked over by her party, after getting dragged in the dirt, like even before she renounced, did you see this? She renounced the Democratic Party like a week ago.
No, I didn't.
She publicly renounced it.
Wow.
Yeah. She was like, no, I'm done with the Democrats. She didn't exactly say I'm a Republican, but she was like, the Democratic Party's dead. It's full of lunatics. I don't want to do this anymore. And so, to see that happen to someone with so much like not like respect, but like she was a force. Like, she was someone, like, she walked in the room, you saw her on stage, like, okay, this is someone I could respect.
Yeah.
This is someone I could listen to. Okay, so you lose all of those people. I was even down for Buttigieg. He's a little radical, but whatever. I don't care that you're gay. You seem well-spoken. You seem smart. You went to Harvard. You're a nerd. All right, whatever.
Yeah, I liked him.
Get rid of all of those people. Just get rid of them all. Okay, so now we're left with Bernie Sanders and fucking Biden. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't like either one of you, but Bernie seems like to actually have a little bit of conviction. I mean, he's still preaching the same shit now that he was in the 60s. He's been around that long. Dear God. So it's like, okay.
I like Bernie. Yeah, he's a little extreme in some areas, of course, but he is for the people. I feel like the people feel like they're represented by him.
Yeah. And so it's like, okay, at least he means what he says.
In some ways.
Right. It's like, okay, why not? And then they got rid of him. My point is like the Democratic Party and the liberals and the hyper left, they claim to be all about inclusion and love and peace and we hate white people. Come in, minorities. We love all of you. And then they got rid of all the minorities, got the 2 old white guys, and they picked the wrong one.
Yeah. What the fuck are we totally. I mean, let's give an example here. The red is really talking about how these blue states have violent crime going on, okay? So a few weeks ago, Tomi Lahren came in to UNM to do a speech.
Oh, and I can't fucking stand her.
Yeah.
I can't.
So it doesn't... and so she's extreme.
Yeah.
In areas. And I'm not quite a fan either, but I love to be a fly on the wall in some situations.
Right.
Like I'm not gonna get an emotional response from the things that she's saying.
I know you're going with
I
this.
just want to hear what she's saying.
Yeah.
And so I knew that she was coming, and then you see everything trending on social media. Oh, meet here. We're gonna.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you really want to challenge this person, why don't you go in, sit down, listen, and ask some questions. Why don't you challenge her with your words instead of proving her point of we're in a blue state and you idiots are getting wild.
Yeah.
It's like, prove her wrong.
Yeah.
How hard is that?
Yeah, because for what I understood, they didn't even let their team in the building, right? Like there was a protest that started and they blocked the entrances.
I think they got inside the building, but they didn't get inside the room that she was in. So they were, maybe security guards or whoever was in the actual room that she was speaking in were holding those doors. But I think that the students got into the actual building itself.
Because I heard the whole event got canceled because of that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that she stopped at about 40 minutes in or something.
Oh, wow.
Or maybe it was 40 minutes that she was waiting for state police. I can't remember the specifics of it. But then you see her, getting on Fox and Friends, getting on her Instagram, getting on everything and being like, UNM, like, you don't stand up for, the people that come in and speak. Yeah. And, you don't stand up for the students. Like, there were students in that room.
Right.
And so we do have to be conscious of that as well.
Yeah.
But it's just, why are we getting so emotional and pissed off? Like,
well, because someone like Tomi Lahren, she's in the same league as like the Ben Shapiro's of the world, and then the numerous talking heads over on the left, right? They identify themselves. Maybe they have good points. Maybe they don't. It all becomes null and void when you assign yourself with a political party and then you just like stick your feet in the ground and then you become pompous about it.
Yeah.
Because again, there's a reason why those people are so famous, right? There's a reason. And like them or not, they went viral and it made it work. Like I used to like Tomi Lahren a lot before the Trump era. Before Trump, yeah, she was a bit loudmouthed and she was a bit up there, but I kind of saw that as, well, no one's going to pay attention to her either way. So I bet she felt as a woman, I'm going to be super loud so they can't ignore me. And I respect the shit out of that, to be honest. But then it became like I'm shoving my politics down your throat. And I'd love to sit down and like pick her brain and figure out like, why do you feel this way? Like, are you sure? Like, because what really blows my mind is like abortion is a big topic, right? Super big thing. And it's never not going to be.
Yep. And
if you don't want an abortion, fine, right? I personally think that, like, I don't think men should be completely out of the conversation, but I think the final say should be like a panel of women.
Well, I mean, when you go to a gynecologist, do they make decisions based upon your religious beliefs?
Right. They make it upon a medical, like, where are you? Medically.
Yes. Yeah. I have Crohn's disease. So when I went to the gynecologist and I told, maybe I want to have kids in the future, maybe I don't. They said, you have to be very careful because if you have a flare up, that's very detrimental to your baby's health,
right,
to the fetus's health,
right,
and to your health.
Right.
And so when you're put in a situation where you have to make an awful decision, no one wants to make that decision. So we have to have these indisputable, logical claims saying, there's no way around this.
Yeah.
This is a doctor and a patient, and this patient, most of the time, does not want to have to go through that, does not want to have to make that decision.
The last thing you need is a politician saying you can't.
Exactly. And I mean, Chrissy Teigen, I'll bring this up. We originally thought, she had a miscarriage. That's the way that she labeled it. Later, it came out she had to have a medical abortion. That's what it was considered. It was her life was in danger.
Yeah.
So that's indisputable.
Yeah.
So it's a baby when it comes out.
Yeah.
It's a fetus when it's in there.
Well, just what's crazy to me, though, is I bring up that with Tommy Lauren is that she's so against abortion. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, fine, like have your beliefs, but I'm always curious when, specifically, again, because it's such a woman problem, it's exclusive to women.
Yeah.
When other women are so like outwardly against it. It's like, fine, if you don't want one, fine, like live your life, but like, do you not understand, like, as a woman, how do you not understand the risk that other people have?
I think it's a biblical belief.
Right. And because I'm personally, I am a Christian and that's the religion I practice, but then also, I don't want to shove that down somebody else's throat. I don't want someone else, like, that's the beauty of this country. If you want to be agnostic, you want to be Jewish, Muslim, you want to be satanic, dude, you want to be Pastafarian and praise have you heard about that religion?
No.
The Pastafarians, they believe in the flying spaghetti monster. Oh, yeah.
Oh, my God. I need to believe in this shit. What is it called again?
So, like a Rastafarian as the Pastafarians.
Pastafarian.
It's real.
All right, so that's what I am.
Yeah. So,
Perfect.
It's like, if you want to believe in whatever you want to believe in, fine. But just because Christianity has a record of helping civilizations go forward and like the Enlightenment happened, and then I don't care about that.
Because
we're
in a different world.
It's
right
like
now.
We're here now, and there is a medical reason why these things have to happen. And what I hate personally is anyone who's against abortion. They lead with, well, they own or people who hate abortion are always going for like, well, you're killing a kid, you're killing life. You're okay, like technically, but that's like it's the big part of it, but it's like you need to see a bigger picture of why it's happening.
Exactly.
Right? Like, why is this happening? And then people that advocate for abortion only talk, well, we need it for rape, we need it for incest. That's like 1% of why these things happen.
Mm-hmm. But those people need to be protected.
They need to be protected for sure, but maybe it's because of poverty. Why they need it? Maybe because of a medical reason.
Exactly.
Right? It's like
there's so many different reasons. We can't put a blanket statement over it and be like, it's gone. Like, what? Like, what if I'm going to die because, for whatever freaking reason during my pregnancy, I'm high risk, blah, blah, blah. That's awful. I would never want any woman to have to make that decision. And they don't want to.
Right.
That's sad. And then you have other people who are maybe living in a lower socioeconomic situation, and it's like generational. That's just kind of like how things happen, like the role of women and how they have. It just depends. It really just depends where you are in life, I think. But I don't think that we should take that right away because there's so many underlying issues that need to be addressed before putting such a cap on it. Like, no abortion. Okay. I mean, I don't go hoe around, like there's so many variations to like how we can talk about this. Like, girls, you don't need to be like going around having sex, get on birth control. Like,
that is not a point you'll hear a lot of women saying anymore. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. So I mean,
appreciate that.
If you don't want to get pregnant, don't have sex. There's one way, and you can say no, but I feel like a lot of women feel pressured by men to have sex too. And then, they're like not wearing a condom. They're like, oh, okay, yeah, whatever. And then, shit happens. So in that situation, you're being dumb. Like, if you don't want to have a kid, like, just like take the precautions to not have a kid. Yeah, shit happens. And then I think a lot of Republicans say, like, you put yourself in a situation, you have to deal with it. But then it's like that poor kid.
Right.
Oh my God, what is that kid going to be raised in?
Well, then also it's like on the flip side of that, I choose not to believe this. I don't think it's true. I'm basing this on no fact other than I hope humans are better than this. Mm-hmm. It's not like there are women running around getting abortions for fun.
No.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know, like,
I mean, there has to be like a small percentage that are just like on the streets trading sex for food.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But like, because from my very small knowledge of like the Plan B, of how much like frequent usage of that messes with hormones, messes with the reproductive system, so on and so forth. So even with that pill doing what it does after prolonged usage, there are not hordes of women running around getting abortion for fun.
No.
But that's how some people want to paint it. It's like they're going to use it as this, they're using it as birth control. It's like, no, dude, I really don't think they are.
And it's why does it matter? I mean, like, is it a population control issue? Do we not want immigrants coming into our country and we just want to keep, I mean, I don't know.
Well, what's scary about that is we are actually underpopulated.
Exactly. So that's where I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Like, with the birth rate declining in certain areas of the world, we can talk about China. They used to only have one kid. Now they can have 3 kids.
Right.
So now we're in a situation where we want this white population? Are these white Republicans wanting to repopulate?
Well, I think that is something that when the data is presented properly, because the reason why people aren't having kids anymore is not because they don't want to. It's not because they don't like kids. It's not because it's just they can't afford it.
Exactly.
It's because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
And I think about that, so it's like, man, if I ended up having a kid, if I just opened up my hands and a baby fell into it, I would throw it right back up. Because I can't afford it.
Exactly. Yeah, that's sad.
And so that's why a lot of people aren't having kids. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like if that is one thing I think the parties can come together on is if they, again, we do the State of the Union BS every year. If they just came out and was like, look, this is where we should be, but this is where we are. We have a plan to fix the economy. Please start having kids.
Yeah.
Because, right now it's too late. From what a lot of numbers are saying is that it's way too late because the boomers had their didn't have enough kids, and then they had enough kids, but Generation X and Z didn't have enough kids, and then now the millennials and whatever came after, I forget what they're called now. Mm-hmm. They didn't have enough kids. Those 4 generations didn't have enough kids. And
we have enough plants and dogs, though. Right. So we have all those.
But now in post-COVID, it accelerated everything because the supply chain stopped, manufacturing stopped, everyone lost their jobs, and now there's everyone needs to go back to work. There's not enough people to replace the jobs.
Yeah.
Or to fill those jobs. And you're right, China, they don't have their 1-kid policy anymore. Mm-hmm. They have a mandate of you need to have 3.
Yeah.
They have a mandate now. And they're, I think they're it's for every household, there's this many kids. It's still only 1.6 is the average. Yeah. And they're beating us, which is scary, which is very scary. And so now what's going to end up happening is there's a really good podcast on it. What's it called? The podcast is called Mysterious Universe. Okay. But these guys out of Australia. And what's nice about them talking about this is they don't have the bias of America, right? And so basically what they analyze is, so leading up to World War II, it was very much a separated world economy. There wasn't this world trade system. There wasn't this idea that what we have now is, the Germans, they're really good at auto engineering. So we get all this stuff from them. Okay, great. China and Japan, they're really good at making computer chips. We're going to get all our stuff from them. Brazil makes what they make. In the Middle East, we get oil from them. And then Australia makes what they make. And then we help a lot. What our country does, we have a lot of it's diverse when it comes to crops and agriculture and stuff like that. So that's what we contribute along with the arms, the military industrial complex. So it's all this world thing. But before that, it was your country was rich based off of what it made, not the alliances you had, what it made.
Yep.
And so going into World War II and then after, America was basically okay, the war's over. The Reich has fallen, but now we're kind of looking at the USSR hey, those guys are going to be problems here pretty soon. Obviously, we got into the Cold War, but when NATO became a thing, the reason it became a thing was America was okay, we're going to make you guys a deal. We are obviously the best country right now, and we are at the top of the totem pole. We can provide all of you guys with security from the big red. But as a trade-off from that, we need to start trading all of our resources. We need to be able to open up this world trade system and start helping each other out. And we'll protect all your ports. We'll protect your waters. We'll put a base in Germany. We'll put a base in Poland. And as the Cold War carried on, it was, we're going to keep communism away. You give us your resources, right? And they kept doing that. Berlin Wall fell, opened more. East and West Germany became one. And then we're all set. Cool.
Yep.
And now we came to a world where, again, because of that world trade system, we didn't have to make everything. You didn't have to make everything. But then COVID happened. and everything stopped. I mean, fuck. Trade got slowed down from 4 weeks because of that one ship got stuck in the strait.
Right.
Right? Like, that's scary.
Yeah.
That 5 weeks can get stopped like that. And then it was all the ports got closed in New York and in Jersey and another hyper liberal state because of COVID, right? Like, oh, we can't go back to work because of this. So DeSantis opened everything up, and because they were stuck there for like a month. Like, all this trade was just stuck there for a month. It's like, well, what are we doing here? And so now all that trade is being stopped. Now there's not enough people to actually be there to unload the ships. That takes a lot of time. And then it has to get to the shipping depots and and eventually it's on your shelf on Target, right? So the moral of the story is we're fucked because there's not enough people to fill a population. Yeah. And it's funny when these people are talking about it, I'm totally like going through like the necessary like bullet points. But what they end up saying is like, you're better off in America right now because of how diverse all of our stuff is, because of how isolated we are from conflict. And that's what's scary about this whole like Russia-Ukraine thing, because they're literally like, there was a leaked audio that Trump had a conversation with, I forget who he had a conversation with, like a month ago. And he's like, these people, like, he's talking about Biden and his administration. These people don't know what the fuck they're doing. They're toying with nuclear fucking weapons. And then it cuts off right there. It's like, okay, when Trump has a better idea of what's going on than the sitting president, we're kind of screwed.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Yeah, what we're hearing. I mean, my dad works at Sandia doing nanotechnology, and I don't know what I can say, what I can't say, but I know that the price of these precious metals are skyrocketing.
Yeah.
And so that's also concerning in terms of development, for us and whatnot. I mean, at Sandia, we have all of these talented people from all over the world coming to New Mexico to conduct their experiments. And I think that is so interesting. I mean, I have no idea where I'm going with this, but that is so interesting. The precious metals, they're skyrocketing. I mean, there's so many residual effects going on because of this whole COVID thing, because of all of that.
Well, and the reason why they're all coming here is it's cheap to live here.
And the war on Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah, it is.
The precious metals.
Yes. Well, no, for sure, because all of that is good. Because anything that we do have, they're not putting it towards cars. They're not putting it towards PlayStations anymore. They're not putting it towards computer chips. They're all putting it towards making weapons and then making actual like troop carrying vehicles that require chips. That's where it's all going towards now, to fund that war, so we don't have to go over there and fight it. Right? Agree with it, disagree with it. That's what's going on. And the reason why all those people are coming, I've heard about that. They're coming to Sandia and they're coming to the other Los Alamos. Los Alamos is because it's so cheap to live in New Mexico right now, and we need people.
And best labs in the world, almost.
Yeah, we need people desperately. But if they can't get the materials they need, it's all null and void. Because what are they going to do? Is just sit on their ass and do nothing.
Yeah, I mean, Albuquerque is a hot spot. Even during 9/11, they evacuated. All the labs and everything like that, because we had planes landing in Albuquerque, detoured here and whatnot. New Mexico is a unique place. Yeah. Such a unique place to live.
It's just, because I think about that as well. I think about the labs that we have, and I think about, okay, well, if, again, doomsday scenario, if the nukes fly, how likely is it that we're targeted? It's pretty likely.
Oh, it's pretty likely. Yeah. I mean, they're gonna. We have a lot of stuff stored in New Mexico.
Yeah, well, it's because we're the Trinity site. Like, we are the place where they tested the bomb for the first time, and that new Oppenheimer movie looks phenomenal. By the way, provided we make it far enough to see what's going on, like that's gonna be a great movie. But on like a brighter side of things, I mean, not bright for Russia, but for us. I kind of did some digging yesterday on what's actually going on inside Russia's military. Have you seen any of that? How bad it's getting for them?
I mean, people jumping to their death because they don't want to go to war. Yeah. And
so that's definitely happening, because what they're doing is they're sending out this mass draft, and they're getting anyone with 2 arms, 2 legs, and a head.
It's awful.
And they're getting people who would typically, even for the Russian military, they would be typically medically discharged. There's people that have walking pneumonia, people that have schizophrenia, people that have Down syndrome, people that have legitimate mental illness. They're getting conscripted to go fight the war.
That? Yeah.
And it's scary for those people.
Yeah. I mean, what a time to live in.
Yeah.
And looking back into history and then looking to where we are now and then trying to decipher where we're going to be in the future. I think now we're in a time of projection. Where are we going with all of this? What do we need to do? What do we need to change?
Yeah, and that's what's scary about not having a strong leader. Like, at least during the Cold War at its height, we had Kennedy. Was he corrupt with the mafia? Yes. Did he fuck up the Bay of Pigs? Yes. Right? And the Cuban Missile Crisis was a hair away from ruining everything. But at least America had someone they could look to be like, okay, he's got it under control. He's still, like we said earlier, he's still a human. He's making mistakes. He's with Marilyn Monroe, and that's a whole problem. But may or may not have given her herpes. But
it's okay.
Yeah, but he's got it under control. And you look at somebody like Biden. Well, you look at Biden and you look at his administration and surrounding him. It's scary because America. This is all happening because we're seen as weak right now. None of this would have happened under Trump. Like, I don't like the guy. I don't want Trump back in 2024. But like, none of this would have happened under him.
I agree to that. I agree, but Trump, he was also irrational.
Yes.
So what if Putin said something to piss him off?
Well, I don't think he would have. I think he understands the
art of business.
Well, no, because he does. Because I mean,
negotiation.
I know that if I would have been given $1 million, I would not have created what he's created. I know that full well. I would have blown half of it on stupid stuff. I know myself. I know myself. I look around and I'm like, yeah, stupid collectibles. That's all I want. But like, I think he respects what it means to actually use a nuclear weapon. I think that changes somebody. And that's what's interesting with talking with Block too, is he held the codes for a bit. And even he said that to me kind of off camera. It's like, that changes something inside of you once you know what you have in your hands. Because again, you have authority like above you and you have people telling you you can't do anything. But it's like, if I wanted to, I could ruin a lot of people's days right now. You know what I mean? And they wouldn't even know it. It just evaporated. And I think having that kind of unique power changed something in Trump. And I think he recognizes what that means. Yeah. And because the way he speaks about nuclear war, it's like he kind of turns the dial down a couple notches because he gets scared, I think. And I think when he went and sat down with Putin, I think when he sat down with Kim Jong, made him shake hands with the leader of South Korea, I forget the guy's name, which is unprecedented and it's never going to happen again. But I think having those conversations with our enemies made him really realize, like, okay, we could really ruin all of this.
Well, he was playing the game right.
Right.
So playing that game right. But then do we know what the other side was thinking? Were they thinking like, oh, yeah, we're cool. We're going to go under the radar.
I think they were scared of him, personally. I think because, again, not the misconception, but the assumption about Trump is he's a loose cannon. He could just set off nukes whenever he wants. And yeah, sure, he could, but like I don't think he's going to. But people thought that. Yeah,
because of all the executive orders, right. Like the rollover within his, cabinet and all of that. Yeah. I mean, he was just after people. Yes. And so that was the only thing concerning is he taking into account what these people who are experienced with like the Department of Defense and all of these different various departments with our safety in America, is he listening to them? Is he listening to their input, or is he making a decision based upon his decision making?
Did you see in the time that you worked with Block, did you see a lot of the Trumpism Republicans kind of floating, not necessarily in him the way he carried himself, but like in his little, like, not cabinet, but like the people he associated himself with, the people you met? Did you see a lot of that Trumpism kind of floating around that community?
They liked Trump for various reasons. I wouldn't call them
like red hatters.
I mean, they liked Trump. Yeah. But man, like it's interesting because I have like half of my family is liberal, half of my family is Republican. All right. And so when I did not like Trump in the beginning because I thought he was unprofessional, I thought he was a bully, I thought he was calling people out, and then I started to like him a little bit more. There were things I liked about him and there were things I didn't like about him. But from an outside perspective, you could look at these people and say, oh yeah, they're red hatters, they're Trumpers, they're this, they're that. they were human to me once I started to get to know them. They had names, they had faces, and they weren't Trumpers anymore. They were just people.
Yeah.
And so around him, he had people who shared the same values as him, such as, cleaning up the streets and securing the border. And, the critical race theory was, bouncing around and all that stuff. I think we should stay away from cultural war shit and not worry about the cultural war. But yes, people did like Trump around him. But you know what? Jay Block was not afraid to say what he needed to say.
Yeah.
And Jay Block lived his entire life, up to now with dealing with things in his own way. And there were things that, like you mentioned in the past, like how much PR did we have to do? How much wildfires did we have to put out and things like that? Like, people are going to perceive things in their own perception. But the truth of who he was there. And his character was there. And I don't work with people who are full of shit. I don't. And I didn't feel like he was full of shit. And when I feel like somebody is a bullshitter or doing things for their own self-gain and not for the people, that's when I don't want to be involved.
Right.
Like, if you want the spotlight just for the spotlight, or you want this just because it's going to boost your ego or whatever, then, let's look through that, and let's get you the fuck out of here.
From a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
Oh, well, first of all, that's good to be able to decipher that. Because, if you're going to work with politicians, you need to figure that out real quick.
Yeah, let's
throw
it all on the table. Tell me what I need to know.
Before you invest too much time and effort into that. Mm-hmm. Certainly money. But from a marketing standpoint, did you guys, when you were helping do that, did you lean in? And I only say this because, so many people inside and outside of the party associate Republicans with Trump. Mm-hmm. And you kind of can't. Like, you can't not do that. Just like in the same way, I'm sure if he ends up running for president, the same thing is going to be Republicans and DeSantis. I can't imagine a world where DeSantis doesn't go for president. Mm-hmm. Like, I really can't imagine that. He's
already are you getting the text messages, like, oh, I usually don't do this, but now's the crucial time. We're doing 1,000 times match what you donate right now for this state. So DeSantis is working with these PACs in various states and trying to get Republicans elected. So I got so many text messages this year from DeSantis saying, we need to support Republicans and I need your help right now.
Interesting.
And so I see him definitely running because he's already starting his, his scheme right now.
So again, from a marketing standpoint, did you guys lean into, hey, we like what Trump did, we echo this of what Trump says or what he did? Did you guys have to lean into that? Did you stay away from Trump?
I wanted to stay away from it.
Okay,
we stayed
so
away
you
from
made
it.
that decision.
Yeah, so that's my recommendation. We're in a blue state. What would supporting Trump 100% do in a blue state if we're gonna win? Okay, if we're talking about the gubernatorial candidate that we were working with, Block, he has a lot of the same attributes that Trump has in a way, like the just uncandiness. I said that wrong. The uncandiness. He edit that out. He has this ability to be able to make you feel like you're his friend.
Yeah.
So you sit down with him and you just feel his genuineness. You know what I mean? What were we talking about?
Well, no, I was just asking, so you guys made the decision to stay away from Trump. You didn't really associate too much with him because, again, a blue state. And I saw a lot of the candidates doing that. I thought for sure it was going to be one. I was like, yeah, we like what Trump did. We want to carry that. And that was very smart that you guys didn't. Mm-hmm. But I thought it was funny. I went to one of the debates in person. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, one of the saddest rooms I've ever been in. I was so depressed.
What one did you go to?
It was the one down in the Hispanic Cultural Center.
The last one.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I was there too.
It was him and
Zanetti.
Yeah, Zanetti, the older woman, I forget her name. And there was four of them up there.
Yeah, exactly.
And first of all, one of the saddest rooms I've ever been in. I just sat there and I was like, man. yeah, do y'all need a couple drinks? Like, what's that? Come on. Like, it can't be that bad. And then the debate started, and I was like, oh, God, this is not a debate. This is, how do we fluff up the Republican Party? Oh, fuck.
The Republican Party needs a new talking points. I feel like we've been talking about the same old shit for a really long time.
It's like a book club in there. And then what I thought was hilarious was they all stood up there and he was dressed just like Trump. He had the black overcoat, the white, the red tie, the American pin. I was like,
who did?
Block.
Oh yeah. But that's just how he dresses too. You know?
No, because it's sad though, because like before Trump, it's like, okay, he's a patriot. That's great. He looks formal. He's got the pin. Okay,
and awesome. Now we have this perception.
But now it's
we're grouping him within the same category. We can look at somebody and we're like, listen to 5 seconds of what they say. Yeah. Maybe somebody's watching me right now and they listen to 5 seconds of what I say and then decide that they hate me. Yeah. That happens all the time, right?
Oh, that happens to me almost every episode I do. I love it. Yeah, exactly. I love it. Any press is good press. I couldn't give a shit. But what I thought was funny too, I think it was Zanetti. Because his first name was Greg, right?
Yeah.
They call him Getmo Greg. Like, that's a very interesting tactic to lead with, Getmo Greg. Like, why would you want to associate yourself with Guantanamo Bay?
Because you work there.
Right, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But like public perception, nobody knows if you did good or bad there. No one cares.
Yeah.
Right? All we know is that Obama promised to shut it down and he didn't and people still got tortured.
I mean, you know what kills me is Block. Yeah, right. Block and Zanetti, they have so much experience.
Yeah.
So much experience that the normal day person would never even fathom of doing. You know, just nuclear codes and launching missiles and working at Guantanamo Bay and working on D cells and all of these crazy things. That is amazing. And we're going to have a weatherman step up there. Yeah. I'm like, bro, come on. Like, can we get somebody who's like done some? Sorry, I mean, I'm not.
No, it's
hating on anybody.
No, it's a legitimate concern. Like, it's not talking shit, and it's not far fetched to say that calling the weather and standing in front of a green screen does not exactly qualify you to be a leader.
Yeah.
And then in the same respect, because again, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, and I don't know everything about Grisham's points in the same way I don't know everything about Ronchetti's. But what I do know is that New Mexico is dead last in quite literally everything.
Everything.
And then we're in the top 3 for nothing you want to be in.
So if we're doing the same thing, what's going to change?
So my whole thing is like, if you have the leader of an organization, maybe they're not making all the decisions. Maybe a lot of their job is delegating and regulating and just making sure everyone else is doing their jobs. Right? That's a lot of what, like a governor,
you have to work with legislators, like you don't just make,
Right, that's what they should be doing. And you're also making sure that the people under you are doing their jobs properly. Right, that's your job as a leader, the head of an organization, a CEO, whatever it is. Fine. And then when it comes to like the big decisions, sure, you put your final stamp on it. But either way, you need to take responsibility for everything that does and does not happen that's under your control.
Absolutely.
And right now, in New Mexico, nothing is going right.
No.
Quite literally, nothing is going right.
And why can't she say it?
Right.
Why can't you be like, this sucks. Yeah. Let's change it.
Yeah, it's very
sad.
sad.
People would believe you.
Yes.
Like, people know what's going on right now.
Yeah.
Walk the streets of New Mexico. It doesn't take that much.
No, it doesn't. And that was one of the points I really liked about Block said it, and a couple of the other ones said it too, because what's always boggled my mind, and it makes sense, it sucks that it's happening, is so New Mexico, for everyone listening, it's not New Mexico, it's 73, I think. Yeah, 73% rural land. But all of our politics are ran by Santa Fe, Albuquerque, and Las Cruces. 3 hyper-liberal cities.
Yep.
And the majority, if not all of the rural land, is filled with Republicans or nonpartisans, people who just don't care. They want to run their land, they run their small businesses, move on with their lives. And I think the governor, like, yes, I understand that Santa Fe is the capital and they have their roundhouse up there and their live up, whatever, but you need to get out of Santa Fe.
100%.
Because
how many? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
How many people are working in the gas and oil industry right now?
Right.
How many people would be affected if we just completely pulled out of that industry?
Well, what's hilarious is like California, they were like, all right, we're going to ban all like all fossil fuel cars, like all like gasoline cars by like 2033, whatever it was. And they're like, okay, in this, I forget where it was, Southern California, but it was like, all right, you guys, they did something to where they were mandating electric only. And then 2 days later, all of the charging stations went down because it got overloaded.
Yeah.
Like, sorry guys, you can't charge your electric cars because we fucked this up.
Yeah.
So, well, there you go. It failed in under a week.
Exactly.
It failed in under a week.
And then you see Biden posting a photo of him in a car that takes gas.
Yeah.
So it's like, what the fuck are you doing? Do you want to save the planet and cut down the oil and, put how many people out of work? Like, let's consider our demographics here. Like we can't blanketly do things immediately. Like that's where I'm interested with the nuclear energy, because there is a lot of potential within that. We live in New Mexico. We have the resources for it.
Yes.
Let's start digging.
Yeah, I think, again, this is talking out of a place of ignorance, but generally the best decision is never an absolute one. It's we're going to take the best of this, the best of this, the best of this. I mean, you look at Texas, right? Texas was on their own power grid. They're using solar panels. They're using the wind turbines. And then the first major winter they were doing that, it froze.
Exactly.
And it shut down.
We would have to cover the entire world with wind turbines to be able to make a difference.
It's insane. And I think... Well, and I think that's how I know God has a sense of humor, is because whenever these pockets of our country try to do something very quickly, very like a blanket statement or a blanket answer, it immediately fails.
Exactly.
And that's how I know God has a sense of humor, because it's like, no, this obviously doesn't work.
Totally.
And so going back to like our state of New Mexico, I think like I don't want either one of these people. And but whoever does do it needs to get out of Santa Fe, needs to look at the rest of the state. And I think they need to be realistic. And it's sad. Like I was watching the debates between the two of them on YouTube.
Yep.
And all it was an hour of Grisham saying, well, I raised the pay for the teachers and we did this with healthcare. And then it's Ronchetti calling her a piece of shit and then reminding the audience that she sexually assaulted someone. Now, that's a small thing. It's a very, but we know about that. No one doesn't know about that. Stop.
He made some, exactly. I mean, like, there's irrelevancies. Like why is that important right now? You just want to win with that statement, and it's not detrimental to our state.
Yeah, we know about it. We know what happened, and she should be held accountable, and she wasn't. But yeah, she paid him out, and they settled
through
outside
campaign.
Right, they settled outside of court, and that's legal. But also, she didn't get held accountable. I get that. Most people would have lost their jobs. I know for a fact that if I went up to someone in my office and grabbed their dick, I would get fired.
Yeah, like what the fuck are you doing? Noah?
Yeah, I would be fired.
Yeah,
right, and rightfully so. But again, like we can settle that elsewhere. Like we need to figure out what's best for the state. And I don't think any of them are. I gotta be real. Not that I'm the guy, and I'm never gonna be the guy, but like, no, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So do you so what's your position at the marketing agency?
So I'm the director of global operations.
Okay.
And I oversee all the projects that we're doing. I go with the client, we conceptualize the project, and we get started. Okay.
So, and no disrespect to Block or to any other politician, really, after I just got done talking so much shit. But no disrespect, but after working in that realm, do you ever see yourself working with a politician again? Whether it's within the agency or just if you ever decide to go do your own thing, like, do you ever see yourself doing that?
You know what was interesting is when I was working with these politicians, they were saying, maybe in the future you have a future within politics. And I thought that was interesting. I was like, I have a future in politics? Like, what? Like, I'm not the weatherman. I can't do this. I don't have the experience. It takes a lot of energy to work with a candidate. And if I were to work with a candidate again, I would really like for that to be my only project. And I just don't have the time to do that. I was approached by Jeremy Gay's campaign, and they wanted me to, come on. And we're very busy with what we're doing in the private sector. And working with the private sector, sometimes you got to stay out of politics a little bit. Yeah. Inevitably. And if I were to work with a politician, like I said, I would want to put all of my time and dedication into that because it takes a lot of work. It's a lot of conceptualization. It's a lot of strategy. It's a lot of time. and they need a full-time staff.
Yeah.
And I am not that person. I thought that we could be. We thought that we could be, but that's where we found the importance of team building and really having one person for each role so that things run very smoothly. And we weren't at that point to be able to do that for the candidates. So we were able to do, messaging. We were able to do flyers. We could do, like the MailChimps and stuff. But now in the private sector, we're in a whole different realm. So we're working with MMA fighters. We're working with, the Lobos, which is really great.
I was going to ask, how was the fights that you went to? How was that?
It was really great. We're working with Josh Arbola, and I love him.
Yeah.
He is so great. He owns A1 Strength and Conditioning, and so he's a private trainer outside of Arizona. He's from New Mexico, went to school with Raiden in high school and everything like that. And he is persistent. He is strong. Like, he has that. He reminds me of Michael Chandler. And so and I love Michael Chandler.
Yeah, he's
dope.
dope.
Oh, yeah, he's the best. He really is
dope.
the best. And so Josh had his first fight the 14th of October. He walked in and talked to one of the main guys, and the main guy was like, you know what, you have this look. We love the way that you present yourself. You have such respect. You have this presence. We want to do a 2-year contract with you for Rage in the Cage, Arizona. And so he was like, hell yeah, let's fucking do this. And so he got that contract. He didn't win his first fight, but that's where the learning comes into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it just takes 1 second to be thrown off your game. It doesn't necessarily mean that you did something wrong. It's just your first time. It's like that 10 times rule. Once you do it 10 times, it gets a little easier. You know what I mean? It's just a learning process. So anyways, the fights were dope. I loved it. I love going to all those fights. I like high performance individuals. Yeah. I think it takes a lot to be on your game all the time.
Well, that's what's so beautiful about stuff like MMA is, whether it's your first time fighting or it's your 100th, like, whatever happens in that, whether you're in a ring, whether you're in an octagon, the cage, wherever you're at, the outcome is 100% your fault, good or bad. It is, because if you lose, if you get submitted, if you get TKO'd, you get straight knocked the fuck out, it's because something you did or did not do. And I think that you can have your team, you can have your corner, but at the end of the day, it's what are you doing? Do you have it or do you not have it? Are you skilled enough? Are you trained enough? Are you conditioned enough? And I think it's like, that's one of like the last, like, man, it's like one of the last bastions of like true combat outside of war these days. Mm-hmm. Like,
and MMA has changed a lot over the years. We're working with Josh, and we're also working with Donald Sanchez, and he's been an MMA fighter since 2005. Globally, all over the world, has fought all over, and he didn't care about being the UFC Conor McGregor. He could have been, he could have been if he wanted to, because he's a fucking badass, but he didn't. He just wanted to fight. He took any fight he could, and so that's the last of like the dying breed of. They weren't worried about their jiu-jitsu being perfect. They just wanted to get in there and fight. Yeah. And now we're seeing fighters in there with strategy. We're seeing athletes wanting to be MMA fighters. And it's just this new generation of fighters. We had the Contender Series going on not too long ago. And I think I forgot how many people were signed, but they were under the age of 22. I think it was like 10 people or so. Yeah. So they're coming on young. And we're going on to this next generation. And I'm excited to see it. We have so much potential here in Albuquerque too. We have Jacksons, we have Smart Jits, we have Gracie Bada. Yeah. We have all these amazing gyms. United Fit we're out of right now. So.
Right. I was gonna say, have you guys been able to tap into Jackson Wink at all? Because I mean, that's obviously John Jones, Holly Holmes, Cowboy, like all those guys are out of there, and then like the whole slew of UFC fighters come through here just to train there. For a month at a time,
so within Jackson's, I'm not working with anyone within Jackson's, but I know people who are training out of Jackson's right now. So Diego Sanchez, Raiden and Diego worked together for a long time within marketing. And so we know his cousin, Michael Sanchez. And so we're working with Michael Sanchez right now, creating this New Mexico Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu League for children, which is really cool. So it's going to be like kids cups and kids tournaments and things like that. And really just trying to get the community together and show that respect and teamwork and sportsmanship and all of that. So that's really cool. So Michael took me to, what was it? It wasn't Raging the Cage. It was Fight to Win. This Fight to Win, I think back in September. And there was Cole Griego and Jesse. I forgot his last name. I'll shout you out on Instagram, Jesse. But he just won a fight. And so they have like, and Juan Adams, I think, is out of there. And geez, just, I mean, all of this young talent down there at Jackson's and like, you know, out of Smart Jits. They're really cool too. Professor Barada, he's awesome as well. These people have fame at their fingertips. I feel it.
Interesting.
Jackson's is popping off for sure.
Well, they'll always be a staple in martial arts. And I mean, as long as I don't agree with the fact that Jon Jones should be fighting ever again just because of what he's done in his personal life. I think that sets a bad precedent for the UFC.
Yeah.
So I love listening to Joe Rogan and I love watching the UFC, but whenever he's a champion of Jon Jones, and he's one of the best of all time, if not the best. Like, he was insane at what he does. But he also beat his wife into a bloody pulp, and, you know...
Yeah, I'm not proud to be like, oh, yeah, he's from Albuquerque.
Yeah,
like, we were all behind him.
The night of his Hall of Fame induction, he beat the shit out of his wife. Like, and I think he's a guy that his brain needs to be studied.
Oh, absolutely.
He's always been a weird dude. Like, one of my good friends, he runs Legion Iron Gym off the freeway. Mm-hmm. And if you don't know, like, where it's at, or anyone who's in Albuquerque, if you go off the freeway going... like coming down from like the Roswell exit, or like where you go down to like Klein's and all that. It's a big black building that just says Legion. And the owner, Garrett, he was Jon Jones' strength trainer for a year. And he's got some weird stories. Those aren't mine to tell, but he's got some weird stories of that guy. Mm-hmm. And it's just concerning. Like, he's kind of always been that way. And
kind of like the Aaron Hernandez thing.
To a lesser degree.
Very lesser. Yes.
To a lesser degree.
But we get the whole concept.
But CTE is a real thing.
It is.
And trauma like that, I mean, when you live your life getting your head bashed in, mm-hmm. right? Whether you're a UFC fighter, whether you're a football player, I mean, you are smacking your head into other hard objects, or hard objects are smacking into your head for a living. Mm-hmm. And I think, like, personally, I love watching football. I think it's great, but it's shocking to me that it's still a sport. Mm-hmm. It's shocking. Mm-hmm. And I think that just kind of shows how corrupt the NFL really is. And I'm nowhere near educated enough to actually say anything about that. But still, that's just insane to me. At least in the UFC, it's very transparent. There are no stipulations about what's going on here. They're not wearing they're wearing gloves, but like, they're going in there to kill each other. Like, yeah, at the end of the day, it's a respect thing. It's a sport, and they know they are going to go until the referee says stop.
And the refs are getting better about stoppage. You know, in the past, I feel like the refs would let it go a little longer than it should have gone. Yeah. And now they cut it off pretty good. And they have the medics on, and they're paying attention to the cuts. How deep is the cut? And can you see? But you have a lot of fighters knowing, you know, if I say that I can't see, then I can't fight. So a lot of them can't see, and they're like, yeah, I can fucking see. Of course I can see. Well, so because they want to fight. Yeah, they're not going to give up.
Well, because I think it was up until like 2015, 2016 that I think it's Michael Bisping. Mm-hmm. He was fighting with one eye.
Yeah. Yeah, against...
Which is insane to me. He fought with one eye.
What was his name?
He had 2 knee replacements and a fake eye.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Who is he fighting?
I don't remember personally. I'm not that well educated, but
I remember that fight.
They allowed him to
the guy who commentates as well.
Mm-hmm, they didn't allow him to fight. They didn't know about it. Mm-hmm. But I think that's great that you guys are working with a bunch of fighters. And it's interesting to me how popular it's getting. But then also it's concerning because I think jiu-jitsu is great because, you know, you're strangling each other and you're not getting hit in the head. Mm-hmm. Like over and over and over. And I think everyone only has so many times they can get their lights knocked out. right? Whether it's you can only do it once or twice. Some people have like 5, 6, or 7 times in them, but like you can only do that so many times until like you ever see like the interviews or the public appearances of Muhammad Ali before he died? Like that was sad.
Yeah.
They should not have let him go out in public because he was not speaking properly.
Yeah.
He was barely putting out sounds. He was shambling around. He would always like, it almost looked like he had cerebral palsy because he would always like have his arms kind of scrunched up and like walking around kind of like this. And it was really sad to see from what I remember. But on the other hand, it's a great sport.
It is a great sport. And then on the other hand, you have Sean O'Malley, who's 17-0, and like he's never been knocked out. You know what I mean? So it's more about the strategy at this point in time, I feel.
Well, you just have freaks of nature like that, like Sean O'Malley, Khabib. I mean, McGregor, he had a couple of really bad injuries too, but what he did really smart was he created a brand. Like he, along with the help of Dana White, he became a brand. He's no longer Conor McGregor. He's McGregor. Yeah. He is notorious McGregor. And
he doesn't have a record like the rest of them. You know what I mean?
Right. And he made a really good decision in fighting Floyd Mayweather, not because he's a boxer, but because he got $100 million, started a whiskey brand. And now it's horrible whiskey, by the way. It's absolutely terrible. But
I have actually never tried it.
It's trash. It's some of I'm not a fan of Irish whiskey, but it's some of the worst I've ever had in my life. But he makes a lot of money off of it. And that's all that matters. But then on the other side of martial arts, you have the Jake Paul Anderson Silva fight tonight.
And then you have Silva saying that he got knocked out twice during training, and then his coach is like, no, that never happened. So it's like, all right.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Silva was like, yeah, like during training I got knocked out twice, and then his coach was like, no, that never happened. So, being that age, they have to surpass these medical trials, and make sure that they're physically capable of going on. And so who knows? Did he really get hit? Did he really get knocked out twice before this? Or, did he who knows? But
that's just interesting
Jake
because
Paul is just such a weirdo though.
Well, I can't imagine any world where I'm not saying not that you're not telling the truth, but I can't imagine a world where they say that publicly, A, and it's like B, well, why would you want to say that? Yeah. Because there's a lot of rumors or otherwise conspiracies going around that what's his name? The Tyron Woodley threw the fight that he had with Jake Paul. That he threw it, that he went down. And that because if you watch the fight, it's a good hit that Jake Paul hit him with to knock him out. It's a good hit. But when they're squaring off with each other, Tyron Woodley kind of ducks, but then he deliberately puts his he has like a little, it looks like he's doing like a signal with his left hand. Moves with his left hand, moves his right, and Jake Paul clicks him really good. And people were saying that, well, maybe he threw the fight, and maybe Anderson Silva's going to throw the fight too.
Well, these guys have been fighting for a really long time. So Jake Paul is young. He's fit. He has a lot of good training.
I was going to say, he's a legitimate fighter, though. Like, why would you want to sully that with throwing the fight? But
you're putting yourself up against people who have a name, of course, but, like, what does their record look like? They lost their last couple fights.
Yeah. I'm interested. Well, Anderson Silva just won his major boxing match a year ago. Woodley did, yeah. Woodley was kind of at the end of his rope, for sure. Yeah. But he was also the UFC champion.
He was.
Right.
But shouldn't Jake be fighting somebody who's like at his caliber, like same caliber, same, you know what I mean?
He definitely agreed to do it for money.
Yeah,
for sure. For the money. But I think what's good about him fighting Anderson Silva is if Anderson Silva loses, I don't think anyone can because why would Anderson Silva want to throw that fight and lose to Jake Paul, right? Why would he want to do that to his name? No. Even though because I think if Anderson Silva never became a UFC fighter and just stuck to boxing, he would have been one of the greatest of all time.
He's amazing.
Because he was an amazing UFC fighter, but he's in his late 40s, going into his 50s, and it's like he's boxing as a 30-year-old. He's boxing amazingly. He's fast, he's light, and he hits like a motherfucker.
I mean, they call him a spider for the reason, so he's going to have good reach. At least we know that.
He hits like a motherfucker, and I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think it's tonight. I'm not going to pay for it because I'm not going to pay like $70 for 5 minutes of a fight.
I'm not giving any of my money to Jake Paul. Sorry.
But I just think it'll be interesting to see what happens. But listen, this was a lot of fun. I'm glad you and I got to sit down. I appreciate you bearing with me with the scheduling issues, but this was an absolute blast. Really glad to finally meet you. So thank you for coming by.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here and talk about all the crazy stuff.
This is a pleasure. And as always, thank you guys for listening and watching. And we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.